senior editors in the media. There are also professionals who have paid their dues in the field. The foot soldiers who bring in the reports, and there are also gatekeepers who decide on the final output of materials we get to see and read in the media. On our Christmas special today, we intend to look at the outgoing year 2022, the high points and the lows, the drama, the controversies, and every other thing that made the outgoing year thick. And it's going to be a very interesting edition. 2 hours of packed programming. I'll start with the introduction of my guests. I have Amadine Uyi, who is the bureau chief, Abuja bureau chief for News Central. Amadine, welcome to our program.
Thank you, Lawrence. It's always a delight to be on Citizens FM where we can dissect issues.
Thank you so much. I also have another veteran in the industry, Paul Obi, who is a journalist and a media scholar. Paul, welcome to our program.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Thank you, Nigerians. Thank you, everyone. This is great to be here. Citizen FM is a very reputable media platform and where we appraise critical issues without hold bars and sincerely and honestly.
Okay, and we are still expecting our third guest, Segun Ojomo, a senior editor. Segun will join us in a moment. He had to take care of something that just cropped up. So, gentlemen, before we even start the program, you can be part of this program by joining us on our live stream on YouTube. Just type in Citizen FM 93.7 and you will be part of the show. You can also follow us on our social media platform. On Facebook, you can join us at Citizen FM Abuja. On Instagram, at Citizen FM 937. And on Twitter, at Citizen FM 937. Any of those. And also, we will talk for about 1 hour. Then we will open the phone lines and get your contribution. So it's going to be very interesting. And in the course of the program also, we also had interviews with some personalities that we will play back in the course of the program. So it's going to be a very interesting 2 hours on radio. So please don't go away. Stay tuned. The program will return in a moment.
Abuja, let's talk about it on our favorite radio station. Talk to us on 93.7 Citizen FM.
I am the vision, I am the spirit, I am the passion, I am the soul of the continent. I am the Nigerian.
Talk to us on 93.7 Citizen FM.
Okay, gentlemen, it will be virtually impossible for us to say we want to look at all the highlights of the events of 2022. We can't even do that in 1 month if we say we have to do justice to that. So we just look at some of them, and we have about 10 of them lined up for discussion today. And we start with the amendment of the Electoral Act. You remember that it generated a lot of controversy before then. But let me just see how Channels TV captured that event, reported the event. It said President Muhammad Buhari has finally signed the Electoral Act Amendment B into law. This was on the 25th of February this year. And says the president assented to the bill on Friday at a brief ceremony held at the council chamber in Aso Villa. The president of the Senate and all the other people that were there. But previous attempts to amend the nation's electoral laws were unsuccessful during the 8th National Assembly led by former Senate President Bukola Saraki and former Speaker Yakubu Dogara. but lawmakers in the Ninth Assembly successfully amended the act. So, in essence, a lot of controversy took place that time, and a lot of people were apprehensive that the non-signing of the bill may jeopardize the 2023 election. Eventually, the president did sign that bill. Let's start from you, Paul. How did you see the amendment of signing of the Electoral Act amendment?
It was a very good omen for the President Muhammadu Buhari, to have signed the Electoral Act. It would have been a very critical situation for Nigeria if that bill had not been signed by Mr. President. And it goes to show the level of gimmicks, hanky-panky, that went into the passage of that bill, both in terms of his passage and his signing. And then there were other critical pieces of legislation that were also embedded in that Electoral Act that is going to shape, let's say, maybe positively to some extent, in terms of ensuring that technological process become part of the procedure of conducting elections, part of the process of safeguarding the mandate, the people's mandate, when they go to the ballot to cast their vote for their respective candidate. And that comes down to the issue of beavers and then electronic transmission of results. That is a factor. And then we also saw, ironically, how the legislators shot themselves on the foot by passing a bill that excluded them from participating as delegates in the respective primaries. And it also kind of like broaden the scope of the deliberations and the discourse that we ought to have in the coming years or coming months in terms of how we deepen our electoral democracy. Because when they settle for indirect primaries, I have always hinted the fact that indirect primaries is very corrupt. It's a corrupt process because it gives the governors and the political heavyweights to hijack the process through monetary inducements, so that they pick delegates across the state in such a way that if you don't have money to buy the delegate, you are not able to be a candidate in any political party. What direct primaries does is that in direct primaries, the provisions provide a platform where party members, each party member is a voter. Now, if you are a presidential candidate, for you to buy all the party members in the country of your respective party is going to be very difficult, because you cannot dole out something like $5,000 for about, let's say, 10 million people. It's going to be very difficult. But when you have 4,000 delegates, all of them are mobilized by their respective governors to Abuja to cast a vote for somebody. They lodge them in hotels. They put them in buses that nobody can even have access to them. They are induced. So the decision they would take is not for the well-being of the country. It's for political heavyweights, political gangs, and few. So the signing of the Electoral Act was a very good omen. In fact, that was one of the most critical piece of legislation that deepens our democracy going forward to the 2023 elections. It was a very nice piece of legislation, but there are other loopholes we have to look forward to. So let's see how it goes in the 2000, and how does that Electoral Act enhance the 2023 elections in terms of safeguarding it from manipulation, rigging, and all that.
All right, I think we Ahmadine, we start off from there. Ahmadine, I remember during that period you were also very active in the field and also coordinating reports about the Electoral Act. So just like Paul said, having signed this bill and everything, looking back now, how do you think that bill, did it in any way contribute to anyway positively to the electoral scene?
Now, Law, first of all, I always like to go down memory lane and then look at the objective of amending an act. Mm-hmm. The objective of amending an act is to improve on an act, because it is believed that no law is perfect. And as society evolves, a law might be convenient for now, but 5 years, 10 years down the line, that convenience, does it still hold for that generation? That is why the law, the parliament is always giving the liberty to sit down, look at these laws, and amend them so that they will weigh on the society temperature at that moment, and the law will be. They say the law is made for man, not man for the law. So it is the law that has to change as man evolves. Now, before you talked about the 8th National Assembly, where we had the President of the Senate, Dr. Bukola Saraki, we knew that there was no love lost between him and the president, between him and his party, of which later he had to decamp to another party. So when the Electoral Act was amended then under the 8th National Assembly, there was that mutual suspicion. The lawmakers suspected the executive, and so they felt that we want to put the executive in check. The executive suspected the National Assembly and felt that the National Assembly intentionally wants to make things difficult for the ruling party. So by the time the Electoral Act was amended, just about 3 months to election, Mr. President said, I'm not going to sign it. He gave cogent reasons, because the reasons Mr. President gave was, if you amend an Electoral Act now, the Electoral Act, if it's making provisions for clauses like electronic voting, electronic transmission of results, and the rest, then this INEC staff have to be trained. They have to master this process going into election so that the election will be seamless. So the president had a very genuine reason. Forget all the hula baloo that the political class said here and there. But he gave very cogent reasons, which, though the reason was right, it was to the detriment of our electoral process, because Nigeria's electoral process is getting matured up to the extent that there are some of these provisions we see in other countries, and we tell ourselves, if as the giant of Africa things are happening in Ghana, Kenya, and the rest, we should be able to implement these provisions. So it was a cogent reason, but it was not favorable to the political class, and a lot of Nigerians, the expectations were dashed. But this time, the 9th National Assembly, there is a better relationship, and the Electoral Act was passed on time. I remember during the process of the amendment, they kept on saying it, pass this on time, and in February it was passed. Mr. President, to keep to his word, did not waste time. He signed it into law. So INEC had almost a year to be able to look at their procurement, what they will need for the election, introduce whatever they wanted to introduce in terms of electronic, adding value electronically to the electoral process. Just like my brother Paul here said, introduce the beavers. So now with the beavers, now it has tightened the system, just like I said. But we have a political class that they also metamorphose. I made the statement, the saying, they said, if they asked the bird that this one that now, naked the bird, you no longer fly without perching. He said, as long as the hunter has learned how to shoot without missing, so I also have to fly without perching. So you see the political class, that there's a reaction, and that reaction reflected in the two off-cycle elections we saw in Ekiti and Osun, because I led my team to those elections, and it unlike before, what the political class will just do is either they bring their thugs, or they look for a way to frustrate the voter accreditation process, or whatever. Then they will resort to a more convenient process where they can easily manipulate the election. But INEC now said no. We have the constitutional backing now from the Electoral Act. We have introduced the beavers. We have also introduced a portal where, as the results from the polling booth is transmitted, so you can sit in your house, open the INEC portal, and you are seeing the results in real time. Before, the Electoral Act did not give this permission. So what have the political class now resorted to do? They know that they cannot manipulate it at that polling unit level. So what do they do now? They have now introduced votes buying. It has been there before, but now they know that the only way that they can take advantage and manipulate the process is to convince people and induce them to vote for them. That's why in the last two off-cycle elections, vote trading was very, very, it got so bad that the EFCC, the police, the DSS even had to say no, the recent Osho election, we are going to put our personnel on ground to monitor, to ensure that we reduce incidences of vote. So we are hoping that now the Electoral Act has given INEC this kind of powers. INEC should also be a step ahead of the politicians and say, now we have introduced this, there's a reaction from the political class. It's like a chess game. I make this move, you make this move, I make this move. But the good thing is that everything will be to the benefit of Nigeria's electoral process.
Exactly. I still remember also then the question was to be or not to be. If the president doesn't sign the Electoral Act, it may end up scuttling the election because of some of the changes we wanted to. But all well and good, that was done and in record time. So, gentlemen, yes, thank you for taking a dispassionate look at that. It was one of the highlights of 2022. Well, if you're just joining us, this is a Christmas special on Citizen FM 93.7, and we are doing a retrospect of 2022, the year that was. The highlights, the high points, and the low. And one of the lows in 2022, gentlemen, for me was the protracted and unnecessary strike by the university teachers. A lot was said about this. For more than 8 months, 9 months, our universities, federal universities, were shut. Amadine, let me start with you this time. How did you see that?
Now, just like you said, it was one of the lows of this year. I, for one, as an individual, I believe, and I kept on saying it throughout the strike, that there is no reason for lecturers not to be in schools. And there's no reason for students not to be learning in schools. Because when you when you take a strike, yet your reasons might be genuine, but to have a ripple down effect, and it's a generational thing. Now, ASU is not the first time ASU has gone on strike. In fact, before this strike, they've had several strikes we called super strikes, strikes that were over 3 months and the rest. So right from before we enter universities and we graduated, ASU has been going on strike. So when people begin to politicize it, blame this government, no. I was not someone who wanted to look at it from that lens, because strike has been ongoing. But what I wanted was that we needed, beyond this, negotiate and take them back to school. We needed a government to come up to say, let's solve this issue once and for all. We understand that. I have friends who are lecturers, who were classmates, who are lecturing now, and anytime these issues come on our forum, we have different views, and I made them know that, see, you're not fighting for Nigeria, this strike, because you tell us that you're fighting for the students are at home. And they want to begin to make comparisons with other countries. I said, you can't make comparisons like this. What is the minimum wage in those countries? What is this thing? What is the salary level of those lecturers in those countries? So you cannot just make a blanket comparison. But we are glad. The joy that I have now is that we are at the eve of an election, and this issue has been brought up once again. The different political candidates have now begun to profess solutions, because just like I said, if it is not solved now, within the next 18 months, ASU will go on strike again. And sometimes, if you want to dispassionately look at it, they also have cogent reasons, because I don't see any reason why a professor or a doctor in a university, let's say a doctor will earn less than 200,000. This is somebody that will that you are even seeing bankers and the rest, they earn more than him for a university system. So sometimes it's not just the take home, but the effort and the contribution to the society. So for me, yes, it was a low point, but I'm glad that we're at an election cycle. The different candidates have been proffering solutions to how they will end the ASU strike. The joy I have is that they were all in government. All the major contenders have been in government before. During their tenure, there have been ASU strike. They were unable to resolve it. So it's not a matter of saying it is one political party that is to blame. I understand it is not a matter of saying that, but let us sit down as Nigerians. interrogate the solutions they are presenting. One candidate said he's going to make loans available and give autonomy. They are different of them. Different candidates have been providing solutions. Let's sit down as Nigerians and look at what is workable for us as a country. Because for me, just as I said at the beginning, it should not be something we hear that our universities close down for whatever reasons and students in tertiary institutions are sent home. No, it's unacceptable.
All right, Paul, do you think that situation could have been better managed?
Yes, it could have been better managed, considering the fact that the current 2014 and 2015, they were so focused on the crisis of ASU and the federal government. And this crisis where university students and university were closed for nearly 8 months or a year from February. A year. Now, during that campaign in 2015, there was a comment President Buhari made that they are talking of subsidy, one other item, and that university students were at home, that was nonsense. Now he was in power. Instead of to do otherwise, he was doing exactly or even above what he was criticizing as candidate Buhari. That crisis exposed the hypocrisy of our political class and the level of our educational system. If you are exposed to other countries where education is at the forefront, at the front burner, you will get to know that our educational system is completely moribund, it's obsolete. We need strategic intervention in our educational system. And if the lecturers are angling for that, there was no need for the federal government to drag its foot. They were supposed to listen to them. I also understand that the strike as an instrument of bargain was outdated. The lecturers needed to look for other strategies and means to canvass or negotiate with the federal government. They have not been doing that. The issue of strike is archaic. It's not a tool in these modern times to bargain for that. But the issue is that it was a crisis that was not needed, and the federal government failed in a colossal manner. And then the crux of the matter was that ASU strike exposed the hypocrisy of this government. It's sad. Going forward, like I said, the strike in most developed countries, even let's leave developed countries, even some countries, small countries, strike is no longer a tool, it's not longer a fancy instrument for lecturers or teachers in the university to negotiate with their government. There are other means you can negotiate. And like my colleague, Mr. Amadin mentioned, where he tried to tie it to the forthcoming elections. Our lecturers, our professors, who have been recruited in some occasions to go and conduct elections, they have connived with the political class to thwart the mandate of the people to rig elections in places like Nasarawa State. In Akwa Ibom, the professor was jailed. He has been sentenced. These are things. So it's not just about coming out to canvass for those things and shout and all those things. What do you do when you are given the mandate to correct the system? You can correct the system through an electoral process, in an election, through the ballot. So the electors also should reflect themselves on themselves, should look at themselves. How have they been able to enhance the society so that we will not be going back and forth on this ASU strike of 18? And the forthcoming elections is very critical. They have to ask themselves that. But on the whole, this government failed woefully in the educational aspect with regards to that strike. Thank you.
All right. So we have just done 2 out of 10. We still have a lot to go. It's still Citizen FM 93.7, and it's a Christmas special. It's Editors Pally. The editors are taking a retrospective look at 2022, the highs and the lows. And we've spoken about the ASU strike. We've also spoken about the amendment, the signing into law of the Electoral Act amendment by the president. Those are 2 issues. I will take a short break now, and when we return, I will talk about some other things that made 2022 thick. My guests have been Amadine Uyi, who is Abuja Bureau Chief for News Central, and also Paul Ubi, who is a journalist and a media scholar. So don't go away. The program will return after this short break. Thank you for staying tuned. It's still Christmas special on Citizen FM 93.7 here in Abuja. My name is Lawrence Umoite. It's 10:31 in the city, and the third guest just walked in. I think I'll spare you guys the details, but we're happy to announce that at last Shego Ojomo is in the studio. Shego Ojomo is a senior broadcast editor. Shego, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Lawrence. Merry Christmas, happy Boxing Day, compliments of the season.
Thank you so much. We wish you the same. Shego, before you came in, Amadine and Paul did justice to two important milestones this year: the signing of the Amendment Act and also the ASU strike. The third item we are looking at is another low. In fact, this one also was very pathetic by all standards, and that was the attack on passengers of the Abuja Kaduna train. We all know the details. We all know how it ended. We all know that lives were lost. Ransom, in some cases, was paid. People were injured. A lot of things happened. But Shegun, let's start from you. How did you see that?
Oh, look, thinking about it, it was a really new low in terms of our security, especially securing critical infrastructure, if you can put it that way. The train track, the Abuja Kaduna corridor. Humorously, if I should say that, we used to talk about the security of that track, of all tracks indeed, that one day these guys could get it in their heads to, launch an attack. And the question then was, will the security forces be ready? That was the question then. But eventually we got our answer. They were not. If anybody saw it coming, nobody did anything about it. And I'm sure there were intelligence reports, as they usually are. But nothing happened. You always have interagency collaboration, was it possible that some people heard something, told these other guys, oh, we're hearing this, or we're hearing some chatter, but nobody did anything. And then dozens of people were kidnapped, taken hostage, some were killed, and it went on for months. Some were, those that had money, like I think it's the Bank of Industry gentleman, he got released, paid 100 million naira ransom, and he got released a few days later. Others were not so lucky. They were women, men, children, young people, old people were there. I just imagine the trauma. Some of them will still be dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, right now. For me, it's something I hope never happens again. I pray it never happens again, because nobody should ever go through what those people experience. We can sit here in the confines of this beautiful studio with air condition on and then just talk about it, but they have to relive that thing almost every day. And sometimes it's like reliving that experience over and over again. I hope that the place is more secure. I saw the other day some stories that were done of people, the train service resuming, even though it's now higher, especially because of Christmas. And some said, look, well, this is still better than going via road, right? Some said, oh, there's still that apprehension.
Okay, Ahmadine, I know that your background is also, apart from covering elections, you're also into defense. I remember those days that you even actually ran a program on defense, and you've also been on the field. So in terms of the security architecture of that facility, do you think it was fair on Nigerians to come down so hard on the government when it happened?
Now, that event is a very sad one. Why I said so is, before that attack, don't forget that last year these terrorists and bandits tried to test the waters along that track. So it was clear to everybody that they are trying to see the possibility. They attacked it to see the possibility of it being attacked. So for every right-thinking person, it was just a matter of when. So the event, I would not like to isolate the February event, because late last year, the terrorists attacked that train corridor to see the possibility. They destroyed the tracks were fixed, and the Nigerians started asking questions about security along the train tracks. Somebody somewhere just did not do his duty. That is my own summation, because I think it was really unfair. So if Nigerians come down hard on government, I think they are asking the right questions, because it is government's responsibility to protect security. See, I know a family that were victims in that attack. The father, the mother, and 4 children. 6 of them were in the hands of those terrorists and bandits. So when Shegun is talking about Nigerians trying to relieve those who were victims, trying to relieve that experience, saying that he would not even wish it on his enemy. Imagine a family will sit down, the father, the mother, and 4 kids. At a point in time, people started trying to raise money from old students, from their mosque, from their church. People started trying to raise money because it looked like a very bleak situation. Yes, at the end, government was able to secure the release
of some of them.
Yeah, of some of those remaining. Those, because like he said, those who had money, who had access to deep pockets, organizations that had deep pockets, they were able to pay to secure the release of their personnel and their persons. But those who are like us, who did not have anybody, stayed there for the entire duration, and it took it before government was able to secure the release. Secondly, let's also look at it from the economic point of view. To build that train facility, remember that the previous government got about a $500 million loan from China Exim Bank. At a point in time, because when Nigerians began to patronize that train service, Nigerians began to clamor for electronic payment and the rest, which multiplied the income from 100 million naira for which they were making to about 400 million naira per month, according to data from the Nigerian Railway Corporation. So for the almost 8 or 9 months or 7 months, imagine how much we have lost. So we are going to be forced to look for money elsewhere to pay for, because that it is the service that will have to pay back the loan. It is the service. So during that period, Nigeria also lost colossal amount of money. Multiply almost 8 by 400 million. You are getting over 3 billion. So you see, families, there are others who their livelihood depended on the service running. They were out of job. We're just talking about the direct. Then we want to talk about the indirect jobs it created and how people lost their livelihoods. You saw it was a colossal damage to the country. So for Nigerians to ask questions, we are still asking the question because the service has resumed and they say there has been improved security. We hope that they will show us improved security, because in other countries they perform drills to show that yes, this is what we have on ground. Don't worry, we have not seen any of such drills. We are hoping, because we are now taking the word of the minister. Nigerians have just taken his word that the security has been improved, and because security has been improved, people have resumed using that service. But we are hoping that henceforth people should be held accountable. When things like this happen, it should not just be business as usual, because most of these public servants, public employees, they are being funded from taxpayers' money. Our money, my money and your money, taxpayers' money. But so we want people to be held accountable so that it will not be business as usual.
Okay, Paul, what's your take on that? How did that come to you?
Yeah, my two colleagues have looked at it from both the sadness, the pathetic situation that crop up, and Mr. Amadin look at the security implications and the economic implications. I mean, I will look at it from the governance aspect, from another score of A, excellent in hypocrisy by this government, in the sense that Mr. President said he was going to lead on the front as a former general. And we have a train station that runs from Abuja, the federal capital, to Kaduna, where Kaduna is like the military headquarters of Nigeria. And then terrorists will invade the train, kill a medical doctor who just finished medical school and was sent to go and do his internship from Lagos and all that. Kill a lot of other people, kidnap so many. At a point, the terrorists will be flogging those hostages they had in a barbaric manner, and we still were not able to do the right thing. Like Mr. Madin said, there have not been accountability in the process. We have somebody who was involved in the negotiation of that thing, arrested in Egypt, brought back to Nigeria. We've not had any case about that story. That story we've not had. Okay, you say we'll soon hear. We've not heard about that case. And then the hostages that were released, whose, like Mr. Madin said, the economic livelihood was collapsed, the economic livelihood collapsed, and the federal government have not taken any step to resuscitate these people as we speak. In fact, there was a protest some months ago, either last month, on this issue. So these are the letdown you get to see, the poor approach to governance in terms of insecurity and lack of accountability that is associated with this government. And that case was a clear case in point of poor performance by this government.
Okay, gentlemen, we need to move faster because we have a lot to talk about. Still on February 14th, the day that ASO went on strike, another news blew our minds off. And that was the arrest of DCP Abba Kyari. And don't forget, this was not just your normal police officer. It was described as a super corps. It was hailed and honored by the House of Representatives. A lot of accolades across the world. So the news of his arrest was a shock. It reverberated throughout the newsrooms. I could imagine how Ahmadine was scampering and shouting over his voice on his reporters to get the fact, and on phone calls, things we normally do in the newsroom, trying to get the best out of the story. Gentlemen, this is how the Punch newspaper put that story. Suspended head of intelligence response team and deputy police commissioner Abba Kyari has been arrested. He was arrested hours after the NDLA declared him wanted over alleged drug links. So the details of his arrest and everything is in public domain now. And so, but let me start with you, Paul, this time. How did you receive that news? How did you process it?
It was a part of the subject tales that we have seen with government, and particularly the police. Our security agencies have not been accountable, and that was also a good example of how low we have gone in our country. A security officer who is paid to police, to secure, and to go after drug pushers was now engaged, caught, arrested by a government agency itself that, like he worked for. In such a manner, it was a complete letdown for the police and for the government itself. That means there are no back rooms to monitor security operatives. And in the case of Abba Kyari, it was a sad situation because, like you said, this is a decorated officer who was, who many people honored him, and he was all over the country as a good cop. The irony is that Nigeria's good cop became indicted, was arrested for complacency and being an accomplice of so many deals with drugs, and that was a sad one. I tell you, okay. It was a sad one.
All right, Ahmadine, despite all this, he is still presumed to be innocent. He has not been convicted so far. But how did you run the story? How did you receive that story?
Now, Paul, for the Abba Kyari story, there were two feelings, and I will express it. On a personal feeling, I felt sad because I have worked with the police. I have covered. He is a very intelligent police officer. If you have worked with Abba Kyari, you know he is very intelligent and very meticulous when it comes to investigation. That's why I said, on a personal note, I felt very sad because he was supposed to be one of the shining lights of the Nigeria police force. And to engage himself in this, it was really, really sad. And it will ripple down to many younger upcoming police personnel who were looking up to him. That's why I said that I had two feelings. They were mixed, conflicting feelings. Because on a personal note, it was not supposed to be an Abba Kyari that this happened to. But be that as it may, you cannot change events. But I also like to look at positives. Lo, you have also been on the field. 5 years from now, can this kind of arrest be made? Even with all the facts, it will be killed before it became public. So we also have to commend the effort of institutions. The institutions are becoming stronger because years before now, this kind of event, we talk about the Aposis killing. The day up to today, the main culprit there, has he been found? He disappeared. We've talked about different issues that involved this thing. But then also the fact that if you look at the police in the last 1 year, to be very honest, dispassionately, there have been tremendous reforms. Are you understanding me? So if you want to place it side by side with the Abba Kyari incidents, do you get it now? You might look at it from the perspective of the police not doing enough. But I tell you, in the last how many months, how many policemen have been dismissed? publicly. They will be taken to the force headquarters. Those who abuse Nigerians on the streets, they take them to the force headquarters in front of the IG, in front of the press. They remove them, they derang them and dismiss them, sending a message that, see, the police will not condone misbehavior. Then also, if you see with the new IG, if you follow the police on social media, you see they now have this following from because Nigerian youths are now having confidence because the first PRO, the state PRO, the IG has mandated them that, see, any issue that has to do with discipline, misbehavior of police personnel, you as a first PRO, you handle it, whether it involves a superior officer. If it involves a superior officer, move it to the force headquarters. So you see, in the last 2 months, I don't know if you have followed Adejobi, followed the state Hunde, followed all of them. Every day they are treating cases. That is why I said that there are two feelings. They are conflicting. I know that a lot of reforms are ongoing at the level of the Nigerian police in terms of discipline and the rest, but when you now want to juxtapose it with Abba Kyari, it is easy to take a position and say it reflects the entire the character of the entire police force, which I know does not. I want to follow the positive. I want to be positive. I want to be optimistic, because a reformed police is a benefit to you, is a benefit to me, is a benefit to Nigerians on the street. So maybe I'm an optimistic person, but for judging from what I have seen, I don't want to relate Abba Kyari incidents with the character of the Nigerian police, but it is one that is really, really sad.
Okay, before we get to Shegun, I think Ahmadina, I think I also agree with some aspect of your postulation, especially when it comes to the institutions, because I also know that the NDLA is also one institution that has tremendously in the last in the last 1 year shown itself to be very, very progressive.
Lord, let's be honest, since a new man came on board.
Exactly.
Since a new man came on board.
Exactly.
Every week.
Exactly. And you know why I'm saying this? I can just imagine. It looks as if the NDLA is a new institution, but it's over 30 years old. Yeah. And all of a sudden, people are just beginning to wake up to find out about the NDLA.
And you'll be tempted to ask whether these drug pushers are just operating now. They have been operating before.
Exactly. And now, Ahmadine, this Abba Kyari issue was between two government institutions. And it would have been very easy for the matter to be quietly dealt with, just the normal way we do things in Nigeria, if the new NDLA did not come into force. I can just imagine.
Or if the IG and the new chairman of NDLA decided to let's just do it small.
The way it is.
But both of them said no.
Because I personally I was shocked when I heard the press release from the NDLA declaring him wanted first. Remember that story? Yeah. That was it. And I was like, what? Who could ever do this? But then, Shegun, let's hear from you.
Yeah, it's like a story straight out of Hollywood, Nollywood, if you like. You know, a fall from grace, really, for an officer who many admired. I can say many even loved. Somebody who was even touted as to become maybe an IG one day. Mm-hmm. But now, all of that might just be gone with the wind, isn't it? Mm-hmm. They are good cops and they are bad cops, right? Like my colleagues have said, it's still in court. Mm-hmm. I think it was in September that some fresh charges were filed. Mm-hmm. You know, non-declaration of assets, property in Abuja, in Borno State, Maiduguri, polo ground here and there, all sorts of assets, cash, you know, foreign cash, discovered, and all of that. And all of this raises a lot of questions. You know, how much is the salary of a police officer? You see so much cash in somebody's account, you see dollars, you see euros, then you start hearing cases, somebody filing a suit. Drugs were found so in a warehouse, or they were not declared. You know, a lot of a lot of things that simply are not just leave a sour taste in the mouth, really, for somebody that a lot of police officers looked up to. I look forward to seeing how all of this ends. I know I'm sure it's going to take maybe a few more years, maybe next year something might finally give. Let's see how he defends himself in court, and let's see who wins, whether the government wins or the officer that has been accused of these crimes wins at the end of the day.
Well, yes, I like the way Shegun put it, because for me, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how this case turns out. My faith in the officers and men of the Nigerian police remain unshaken. My faith in officers and men of the Nigerian military remains unshaken. Amadine, I know that if you interact with the average military personnel, he's willing to give his best. He's willing to give his all. During the height of the Boko Haram, Amadine, remember now, 2012, 2013, 2014, at the height of it, that we were always sending you to all those places and everything. At the end of the day, these are Nigerians who give their all without any let. A lot of them, I still believe that majority of our security personnel are honest and upright people. So if once in a while we have one or two or three who fall short of the law, it's not enough to cast a doubt on those institutions. So, gentlemen, I think let's take a short break now, and when we come back now, we'll give the audience the opportunity to make some input by calling us on our phone calls. But before then, we will open up the phone lines, and the program is still Christmas special on Citizen FM 93.7, and my guests, 3 of them editors, 3 of them reporters, 3 of them newsmen, whatever you want to describe them. When it comes to the issue of media, they are there. Shegun Ojumo, Amadi Nuyu, and Paul Obi. They will still be in the studio when we return. Please don't go away.
Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to you.
There's no room for his tummy. Please do something, Mummy. Without Santa Claus, oh, how can Christmas begin? I don't see how I'll get the presents I've been looking for. I knew while sitting on his lap in that department store that he'd have troubles. By Jimmy, he's too fat for the chimney. So open the door and let poor Santa Claus in. So open the door and let poor Santa Claus in. Without Santa Claus, how can this Christmas begin? Wake up, Mommy dear, someone's in distress. No, it's not the wind I hear, it's Santa Claus, and he's in an awful mess, 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 mess. He's too fat for the chimney, too fat for the chimney. So open the door and let poor Santa Claus in. There's no room for his tummy. Please do something, Mummy. Without Santa Claus, how can this Christmas begin? One day I saw him on the street, and I could quickly tell that with his roly-poly tum-tum shaking just like jelly, just won't make it by Jimmy. He's too fat for the chimney. So open the door and let poor Santa Claus come in.
When the bells all ring and the horns all blow, and the couples we know are fondly kissing. Will I be with you, or will I be among the missing? Maybe it's much too early in the game. But I thought I'd ask you just the same. What are you doing New Year's? New Year's Eve. One whose arms will hold you good and tight when it's exactly 12 o'clock that night. Welcoming in the new year, New Year's Eve. Maybe I'm crazy to suppose I'd ever be the one you chose out of the 1,000 invitations you'll receive. But in case I stand one little chance.
Thank you for staying tuned. It's still Christmas special on Citizen FM 93.7. My name is Lawrence Umoite, and the editors are still in the studio. Amadine Uyi is still here, Shegun Ujumu is still here, and Paul Obi is still here, the three of them. And we've been taking a look at the high points and the lows of 2022. A lot of things have happened in 2022. Remaining 7 days to go. So, gentlemen, let's look at another important occurrence of the year, and that was the presidential primaries. Now, a lot of drama, the intrigues, the campaigns, the promises, the backstabbing, so many things came into play. Paul, let me start from you. Not forgetting the huge amount of money involved, the outcry that trailed the nomination forms and so many other things. So, from your perspective, how did you see the party primaries generally, PDP, APC, and the rest?
Yeah, democracy is pluralistic. That is, you have several options for democracy. For it to be democratic, you have to have that options. And the two parties primaries, let's look at them because those are the main parties at that time where the primaries were held. You have a situation for like APC. APC was a government that signed not too young to run. And then they now price out the system. They use through their primaries to systematically price out the young people to run elections by the exorbitant prices that were attached to their nomination forms. For the presidential elections and primaries, it was like 100 million and thereabout. The senatorial was so high that if you don't have access to so much wealth, your pocket is not deep, you were completely ruled out. That was the case with the APC. And then there was so much horse trading, there was so much monetization of the whole process that was why the Electoral Act missed a step in not ensuring that direct primaries was embedded in our laws, in our extant laws. Indirect primary is a very corrupt system. You go across the party lines, the state governors are in firm grip of all the party structures in the state. Now, if a state is expected to bring 400 or 300 delegates to a presidential primary, all the delegates are going to be on the behest of the governor. They are bought. You can go ahead to collect money from the presidential candidate to bring those candidates. It's a buy and sell thing. It's not democratic. You might see all those things, they are cards thing, arranging ballot boxes and all those things. But at the end, it's a buy and sell process. It's transactional. That was not how, that's not how democracy should. On the PDP side also, the challenge the PDP had was to have digressed from its own laws of zoning after 8 years of President Buhari. Honestly, if you are morally upright, I know it's democracy, the power is supposed to return to the South. Nigeria is run on the basis of geopolitical zones, ethnicity, and those feelings. Those things are there. No matter the level of preachment you preach that this is democracy, is anything, it is a give and take thing. You share power. You don't dominate. You don't accumulate so much power. So the emergence of Atiku has thrown the party into confusion, great crisis, that you now have the G5 group from that primaries. And I do not see any form of reconciliation. PDP is going to the 2023 presidential election as a divided house, and that is as part of the consequences of his derailment from his own Eastern laws of sharing the power embedded in his own constitution. I think that is those challenges. And then you now have P2B leaving the PDP to go to APC and redirecting to Labour Party, reshaping the political landscape in such a way that previously we used to talk about two-horse race. Now you're talking about a three-way race.
Okay, Paul. Ahmadine, let's hear from you.
Now, the primaries, just like Paul said, brought so many. It's not the first time. It's every election cycle we witness this kind of things, and it is the party that is able to rally themselves after the primaries, try to appease those who are upset, that still emerges. He has already talked a lot about the PDP, so I would not really want to dwell much, because what Paul Obi said about the PDP was spot on. Spot on. You can't add, you can't remove. It's the exact reason for the crisis in the party, and whether the PDP faithful will just have to accept the fact that they are going to this election a fragmented party, a party that is divided. Now, for the APC, yes, they also had their own there were issues concerning the cost of nomination forms, and there were issues also surrounding zoning, because we know that, yes, it was the APC governors tried to intervene at the dying minute and said, no, it must go to the South. But we also had the issue of the South. We know that the South in Nigeria is not just the South. You have the Southeast and you have the Southwest. And there have been clamor that since Nigeria has returned back to democracy, or say all the times Nigeria has had a shot at democracy, we've not had a president of Southeast extraction. But also, there's also the argument that has to do with those who came out under the platform of the APC. From the Southeast. I don't think they did their region any favors, because looking at it, they paid 100 million naira for nomination forms. How many of them did you see transversing the length and breadth of the country to seek for votes? How many of them? You can't mention one among those candidates from Southeast extraction who they could not even come together and say, let's give our zone a bigger chance to have a shot at this. Let's merge our ambitions into one. Some of them bought the form and went to sit there in their houses, waiting for it to be given to them on a platter of gold.
Maybe they know things that you don't know.
No, but the truth about the matter is not about knowing. It's not about knowing. But we have now seen the result that has come forth, such that no candidate within the fold of the APC from Southeast extraction even had a shot. The only person that tried is from that region is Rotimi Amechi, who was from the South. It was Amechi that took time to be visiting delegates, visiting governors. Check out Ogbonna Onu, Emeka Wanjuba. How many of them went from state to state? It was a disservice to their zone.
Ahmadine, maybe it was also a function of how deep your pocket is.
Then if you are not, we know that Nigeria presidency, Nigeria is a large country. 36 states. you don't have deep pockets. Why attempt to go for a position that entails a man with deep pockets? Because you have to visit delegates. But like Paul said, at that point in time, the primaries was mainly by indirect primaries. So you had to convince the power brokers in each of the states, because indirect primaries, just as Paul Obi earlier espoused, is that it does not really reflect the will of the people. Because the governors who are the demigods of the party at their zones, they sit down, they control everything, control the structure, control everything. It is who they endorse that the delegates will endorse. So before you get to the delegates, you have to get to the governor. But the long and short of it is that the APC got a candidate, and that candidate was able. I think we must commend Bola Tinubu, because the first duty he did after being elected as the candidate was to visit every front runner that came out during the party primaries to seek their support. Irrespective of whoever you are or whatever you were, he visited you to say, now the primary is over, let us unify the party. And remember, months before now, many people had believed that the APC would not be able to present a formidable united front. They felt that the APC was going to splinter, what was keeping the party was the President Muhammad Buhari presidency. That was keeping the party, but the party has shown resilience and the party has gone forth. Now the candidate is even one of the front runners, because they have been able to see how they unify themselves. We saw the clip that went viral in Cross River State, that is Paul Obi State, where the APC still went to try to unify the different warring factions, because he knows that to get considerable votes in that state, the party must come together as one. So when you begin to have people of different camps, the Onwa Enoch camp, the other camp, they are fighting each other, and the party cannot come out together. So the president then, he said something. This is not the first time Nigeria has clamored for a third force. I remember, was it in 2011 or so? No, 2017 or so, where the NDP came out. We've been having every election cycle. We've seen political class try to create a third force. But for this movement now, it was not created by the political class. It was organic. It just grew out on its own. Maybe that is why it is this strong. Before now, so many people did not take the Peter Obi presidency serious, his aspirations serious. But now all the parties are looking behind their shoulders and now saying there is a Peter Obi also in the race. We cannot write him off. But what we are saying is, maybe the election, we will see how he can translate this support on social media to organic votes, to boots on the ground on election day, considering the fact that also we know what it takes to run an election in Nigeria, the cost. So right now there's a third force, so it gets the race more exciting. There are other candidates who are not writing off other candidates, but it is clear from what we have seen that in every race 20 teams start a Premier League, but by the time you start reaching to December, you start picking out 6. That these are the 6 teams topping the table. The others are still playing, but we know that these are the big 4, the big 6. Right now, Nigeria is already trying to narrow whatever they have down to the big 3, and we all know the big 3. Let's hope that we'll go into election which is less than 8 weeks from now, and Nigeria will peacefully, and it will reflect the will of Nigerians. All right,
Shegun, Ahmadine spoke about the big 3. Some will argue that it's big 4. Are you discounting Kwankwaso out of it? But that is not before now. Say in July, did you ever imagine that a Peter Obi or a Kwankwaso will have this kind of followership?
Well, if you know Kwankwaso and the Kwankwasia movement, you will know that, yes, as far as Kanu is concerned, yes, he has that cult-like followership. as represented by that red cap in Kano. If you see that red cap, well, you've seen a Kwankwasia, member. Yes. So I think it's the emergence of Kwankwaso and Peter Obi adds an interesting dimension, if you like, to the race. Traditionally, it has always been a two-horse race, like my colleague here said. But now we have potentially a four-horse race. And if you are somebody who likes to bet, then you can put your money on whoever you like. Yeah, but you still have to admit that, the two main parties, the APC and the PDP, it's theirs to lose, really. But the worry for those who would like another party to win and who maybe think, it could be a PDP, the worry for them would be the unity or lack of it in the party. Remember that saying, divided we fall. Now, is the PDP more united today than it was, say, a year or two ago? That is a question you really have to ask. If you want to upstage a sitting government or a ruling party, if you like, is this how to do it? When some of your governors are not, with you, there's still this internal wranglings, squabbling, all sorts of infighting. You're on the campaign trail and you don't have a full complement of the governors of your party. These are the questions that we need answers to, that the PDP really has to answer. Of course, Labour Party, Amadin said, if he can, Peter Obi will have to translate the huge following he has on social media and in other large gatherings that we've seen him attend. In December, a few weeks ago, he was at Living Faith when Living Faith was having his Shiloh 2022, and you saw the kind of reception he received. If you go when he went to Dunamis, same kind of reaction. A lot of people seem to like him. A lot of people love him. Now that wouldn't have been the case maybe if the APC was doing well, or if people were dissatisfied with the PDP, were not dissatisfied with the PDP. For the fact that people are looking at a third force, an outsider, a dark horse, for the solution, shows you that the others have failed in the perception of the people. And in politics, in life generally, perception is everything. So, an interesting time awaits us.
All right, so we are virtually winding down now, and it's still Christmas special on Citizen FM 93.7, and my guests are still in the studio, Segun Ojomo, Amadi Nuyi, and Paul Obi. But before we open the phone lines, I spoke to some Nigerians about what they feel about the outgoing year, and they bear their minds on some issues. We start with Dr. Law Mefo, who is a forensic psychologist. He's also been on our show before, and let's listen to what he had to say.
It has been a hectic year for Nigeria and Nigerians, very many low moments. And of course, a few points I also consider, positive. I will look at it from three perspectives. One, from the economy point of view, there is no improvement. In fact, the nation's economy actually worsened in the year 2022. It got to the point that the total collectible revenues of Nigeria can no longer take care of debt servicing. It's sad, but that is the truth. If you cannot, through your foreseeable income, be in a position to pay the interest of the loans you collected, that is what debt servicing is about. And the nation's total revenue is now becoming unable to solve that fundamental problem. What that means is that every other aspect of the economy will have to be financed through a borrowing. And up to 70% of the 2023 budget is in deficit. It has to be based on deficit financing. And how do you meet up that? It means that you have to borrow more money. It means that you have to sell national assets. Is that bad? How do you sell national assets to pay salary? That's just the question Nigerians should be asking. What that means is that the incoming administration will really have a very rough time. But again, from the anti-corruption perspective, nothing. We have nothing to show for it. A few symbolic gestures by the EFCC, doing this and that shenanigans, nothing really concrete. Take, for instance, some court cases that came up this year, or that could have been concluded this year, particularly that of the anti-corruption czar, Ibrahim Magu. Where's his file? Where's his case? I give an example with Magu. You have the case of the Accountant General of the Federation, neighborhood of 100 billion. Nobody knows anything about that. And you look at the case of MFLA. MFLA, the Director General of DSS asking for court to grant him permission to arrest the Central Bank Governor for being a terrorism financier. It's only an allegation, though. But then, that will show you how bad things have become. If a DSS Director General is approaching the judiciary to authorize him to arrest Central Bank Governor, the manager of the nation's monetary policies, to show you that Nigeria is on a free fall. Before 2022, Southeast Nigeria was the safest region in Nigeria. But now it is the home of unknown gunmen. Today we have gone beyond Boko Haram terrorism. We are now talking about a 2022 that has yielded bandits in Nigeria as a full-blown terrorist organization. It's the position of the courts, not mine. It's not my opinion. The court declared them so. And herdsmen, farmers' conflict has only degenerated and engulfing the entire country. Nobody is safe anymore, not even in Abuja. You look forward to going home. If you have a problem in any part of the country, you rush to your own part of the country. But where you are rushing to is no longer safe. I can't rush to the east because of safety. So, if you look at it holistically, however, this same year also witnessed the march of Nigeria towards a new administration. But on a brighter side, some silver lining, is that in the next 2 months, February 25, 2023, the country will be going to the polls to elect a new president. That's just the only hope, something that has revived hope, in all of us. And I think it's just the only highlight for this 2022. That's just the only good thing I can see, that there is a kind of a discernible commitment of the president and the INEC chairman to give the country a free and fair election.
Most spectacular for me, as a parent and as a scholar, was the seemingly interminably, protracted ASU strike of 2022. That was one strike that was avoidable, but was needlessly allowed to go on for as long as the incompetence of the folks in government could carry on. It was rather sad that we will claim to have a government in place, yet that kind of shameful situation could still arise. We had what we call a Ministry of Education. Indeed, a special section of it dedicated to the management of tertiary education. Yet all this could happen. And at the end of the strike, nothing was achieved. Well, ASU was frustrated out of the whole exercise, and it was no victory for government. If they saw it as a victory, it really wasn't a victory. Everybody felt nauseated, felt irritated by a huge mess that you created as a Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, yet you wanted to become president so that you could plunge the entire country into crisis or what? We have children in the higher institution who ought to have graduated. But now that they are still grappling with their coursework in the university, and nobody has apologized to them, and there is no compensation either. And there are teachers who ought to have been encouraged were frustrated out of the strike. So you can see, so this is one ministry that has done the worst damage to the Nigerian society. It's rather sad.
Oh, well, that's Dr. Tunde Akoni, who is a multiple award-winning scholar and communication consultant. He's also of the Lagos State University, LASU. Giving his impression about 2022. And the first voice you heard was Dr. Law Mefo, who is also a psychologist, forensic psychologist, and also a scholar. And the next voice you're going to hear is that of the national chairman of the NNPP, Professor Rufai Alkali.
This year, 2022, as we are passing through it, going into 2023, Nigeria has once again with serious challenges. I'm sure you know this, every Nigerian knows this. Of course, we have been having a series of challenges historically. It's not the first time, it's not the second time, but every year comes with its own unique challenges. The issue of national security, this one, everybody, there's a consensus that this thing is very, very serious today. The issue of the national security is also very serious. The issue of the economy, it has not been so bad that today, whatever we buy today at 100 naira, when you go back tomorrow is 150 or 200, next tomorrow is 300, another day is 500. Escalation of prices. And this has direct implication for the income earnings of average Nigerians. You can find there is a lot of anger, a lot of despondency, and even fear. And one of the most disturbing aspects of the whole thing is that people are losing hope in the country. They're also losing hope in themselves. But nonetheless, because now we are undergoing a transition program leading to general election in the next few months, people are still hopeful that it can be better. And they pray, and we all pray that it should be better. So I think what we can say is that we pray that the challenges that we are going through will be a lesson to all of us so that we don't make mistakes in 2023 elections. The worrisome part, I think that is the lowest part for the country, is the devaluation of politics in the country is the worst part, where gradually and unfortunately the issue of religion and ethnicity and regionalism is becoming more prominent. Yes, religion is very important in our lives. Ethnicity is very, very important. We cannot shy away from it. And the regions where we come from are very important. But what Nigerians today need are leaders that can lead a country, a giant, not just being tribal leaders, not being ethnic champions, not being religious bigots, because ultimately whoever wins elections must run the whole country as a whole. Will not be there just representing an ethnic or religious interest. This is the worst level now. Although historically we have this issue of religion, ethnicity, and religionism, but the political is exploiting it maximally this time. And having failed to deliver the dividends of democracy to the ordinary citizen, the only thing they can now use is to manipulate the sentiments and emotions of Nigerians. And I hope Nigeria will never allow themselves to be dragged into this. No matter whoever is there standing for election before you, you must look at him first and foremost. Is he the competent person? Does he have the pedigree? Does he have the integrity? Does he have the care and the concern of your own very basic interest, that of survival first and the progress of a nation? So I believe that Nigeria will have to stand a better chance to triumph. I know in moments of hunger, a moment of deprivation, a moment of poverty, many things can happen. But I think Nigerians have shown it again and again that they can cross over all these things. I want to call on all Nigerians not to be despondent. I want to call on all Nigerians not to lose hope. I want to call on Nigeria not to lose hope even in their own country and in democracy. Because so far, democracy is the best system of government that can give you opportunity to participate in the selection of your leaders. It may not be perfect. In fact, it is not perfect. Even in the advanced countries that we always cite as cases of advanced democracies, they ban us because democracy is not a finished product. It's a process. It's a series of actions. Once we stand on the side of truth, we'll because we have seen that some politicians have reached to land by the routine made on 27th of September 22 to ensure that we conduct ourselves in a manner that will be peaceful to nationwide throughout the period. So far we have been hearing some governors are still embarking on voyage of attacking opponents. That should not be allowed. We also commend the INEC so far for doing everything possible to modernize the system of election. I know there's very huge challenges, but as you change, as you modernize, as you improve, as you bring in technology, new challenges will emerge. I think INEC has to brace up to that we don't make any mistake in the fashion.
For me,
Abuja, now we be the voice of the people. Citizen FM, make we join our hearts to build a nation of our dreams. Citizen FM, Citizen FM. Your problem is my problem and my joy is your joy. Citizen FM, Citizen FM. Make we join our hearts to build a nation of our dreams. Citizen FM, Citizen FM. Your problem is my problem and my joy is your joy.
Thank you for staying tuned. Season FM 93.7, and it's Christmas special with editors just in the studio. Amadi Nuyu is still here. Shegun and Paul Obi, both of them also are still here. We are now on the home stretch, and also the phone lines have been officially opened. You can call us on 0903 2220797. That's 0903 0903 2229797. 0903 29797. You can also call us on 0818 2222205. In the alternative, you can also call us on 0808 2222037. Any of these numbers, we will be glad to take your call. And you can also send us a WhatsApp message on any of those numbers and let us know what you think. You can also be part of our live stream on YouTube. Just type in Citizen FM 93.7 and we will be glad to take your call. So, gentlemen, while we for the calls to start coming in, Amadine, let's look at the Ekiti and the Osun elections, how it went, and how that those two elections in the next 2 months.
Ekiti and Osun election, it received rave reviews from across the country because Nigerians, the comments Nigerians made after those polls, I think they were in lieu with what exactly happened during the polls. The only major incidents which I would say tried to mar that election was the cases of vote buying. But these are not is usually not done in the public, so it would not be fair to say it was done in the public. We heard of cases of vote buying, but we did not witness any of such. But in terms of getting the let's say in terms of I think INEC did a tremendous job in terms of trying to ensure that the election was free, fair, and credible. We are hoping that INEC will still improve because there's always room for improvement as we go into the general elections. We know INEC will face a much bigger hurdle because they'll be conducting election across 36 states of the FCT of the country, including the FCT. But we are hoping that with what we saw on ground, the security operatives, everybody worked in, and to a large extent, I think to a large extent, I would say that the INEC performance was far above average. But like I said, we are hoping that they will improve on these elections going into the general elections. All right.
Shegun, you also witnessed those elections. Let's have your view on them.
Oh, yeah. The elections, I think we had Ekiti first, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So Ekiti was good. I was privileged to saw the beavers at work. At least for me, first time experience with the beavers, and it went off pretty smoothly. The observers were there, they mobilized, and made the observations. And apart from the issue of vote buying, every other thing went off smoothly. Then of course Osun came about a month or so later, and that one even was a marked improvement on Ekiti. INEC was applauded. Some concerns were raised again on vote buying. That seemed to be the recurring decimal in those elections. Looking forward to 2023, the good news for me, I think, is that Nigerians can look forward to credible elections. INEC is ready. The commission keeps on perfecting its processes and procedures. The onus right now, rests with largely the voters and of course the political class. For INEC, there will be the IREV, the INEC result viewing portal. It's going to be live. You can follow proceedings.
Okay, Shegun, just a minute. Let me take this call. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Morning, Larry.
Good morning, sir.
Morning to all our kids.
Okay.
Maskman calling from.
Okay, Maskman, please go ahead.
Yeah. You see, in life, every day, every new day comes with challenges. And then our ability to be able to work out solution, remedy for those challenges is what makes us, is what pave way for progression in living. So you see, 2022, yes, it did have many, several challenges. How prepared are we? Or what have we been doing about with the challenges that 2022 brought with ourselves? Now we are going into 2023. We've not taken care of the problem. We've not found the solution of the situation of the problems of today. And then 2023 will be coming with our own too. So the thing is, if we cannot have a leader that will come out and find solution for us, then I think it's a very hopeless situation. And all this is because we have come together to come out with norms that we call our that we will guide ourselves with. We name them constitution, and then we have people who are supposed to interpret and those who are supposed to effect. All of us are lousy, no one cares. We just don't do.
Hello. Oh, I think we lost that. Maxman, if you can call us back, we'll be free. We'll be willing to take your call. Ahmadine, we have less than 10-15 minutes thereabout to wrap it up. So what we'll do is that we'll be taking different stories together, not necessarily everyone on the same. So Ahmadine, let's look at the renewed attacks on INEC facilities, which seem to have popped up in the last 1 month.
You know, I said it a while ago that for me, that is an act of cowardice, because those attacks will not stop elections from holding. INEC will still conduct its election. You might, yes, delay the polls in that area, but I see I still can't understand the rationale behind.
Okay, Ahmadine, just a moment. I think Max. Hello.
Yeah, Larry. Thank you.
So right up.
Okay, so as I was saying, our new leaders, any person who is aspiring to become a leader in this country should know and should be prepared. Is going there to look for solution, not to enrich ourselves. And how do we arrive at that quickly? The rule of law. We should allow the rule of law in this country. We should reverence our constitution aside God. The next thing we should reverence in this country should be our constitution, and things will change and things will move smoothly. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Maxman. So, Ahmadine, can continue. You were talking about the attacks.
So, like I said, I don't know. I still can't fathom the rationale behind those attacks. What do they want to achieve? What is the objective? I don't know the objective, because if the objective is to stop elections from holding, it's already a lost cause, because elections will hold. So even me, I want to, can one of those people even just put it somewhere on social media that this is why we're attacking these facilities? Because I think an election, circle gives you an opportunity. If you are not happy with government, it gives you an opportunity to change the government. If you are happy with government, it gives you an opportunity to affirm your support. So when you get to an election circle, it's an opportunity that is being presented to every law-abiding citizen. So when you now see people say, I don't want this opportunity. What message are they trying to pass? Are they angry with the government or with INEC, or is it that they are angry with their governor, or are they I still don't know what they are trying to achieve.
Maybe Paul knows what they are trying to achieve.
No. I don't know what they are trying to achieve, but the persistence and increasing cases of attacks on INEC facilities in the southeast geopolitical zone is a very sad commentary on the leadership and critical stakeholders of that zone. Practically, this is the first time that a candidate of Southeast extraction will come out to run for president, and it's almost been accepted across the whole country. Even Zik did not receive overwhelming support, where Yorubas, Hausas, Plateau, Benue, Cross River, everywhere were supporting him. And you have the least voting population across the geopolitical zone. You have like 11.5 million votes. And then you go about instigating fear. In fact, the recent polls conducted by the NOAA and Andorra organization shows that there have been increasing deterioration of voting, of people wanting to come out to vote between September 2022 and 2022. Why? Because there have been attacks. People might be afraid to come out to vote. And the voting strength, the voting voice of the Igbo people in the southeast will be heavily affected. And the leaders of those of that zone are sitting down to watch miscreants, criminals, go about destroying INEC offices and destroying democratic institutions. The only means to have a change in Nigeria, as far as we are concerned, is through a democratic process, and elections is the only way. There's no any other way you can use to make a change in Nigeria. And if the Southeast don't come together to stop those miscreants or any political goons going about destroying INEC properties in the name of maybe having an agenda or wanting to disrupt the 2023 elections, they will hold themselves to blame. It's a very sad commentary, sad moment across board. That is my take.
Okay, Paul, let me stay with you briefly, just briefly. Let's touch on the PDP governors, the so-called G5 governors, and their formation and the consequences it has so far on the PDP campaigns.
Yeah, I think PDP was expected to be a frontline party that would take over leadership of the country in 2023, considering the performance of the APC. But as we speak, PDP is a divided house. The center can no longer hold, like W.B. Yeats said in his poem, Second Coming. So we now have a situation where 5 strategic governors, in fact, in the whole of Southeast and South-South, Rivers State has the highest voting strength. All of Southwest, after Lagos, Oyo come very close. And these governors, Abia, Rivers, Enugu, Oyo, are not speaking them for the presidential candidate of the PDP. There are going to be consequences. And it's born out of, it's like self-destruct. It's like PDP engaging in self-immolation, burning itself by not adhering to the agreement. Like, even if the PDP presidential candidate has gone to the north, it was clearly stated when they were negotiating for the national chairman. It was stated, all these stories that are coming up with now, they are fallacies, that once the presidential candidate comes from the north, the chairman was going to relinquish. He made that clear. But now it's a different story. So PDP, and I do not think, from my own observation and some other information I've gotten, I do not think Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State and some of the governors will support the PDP in the 2023 presidential elections.
Okay.
And it's very clear.
Let's take this call. Hello, good morning. Oops, I think we lost that. Okay. So, gentlemen, Ahmadine, still talking about the PDP briefly too. Do you think it's almost too late to get any form of reconciliation in the PDP now?
I think we just have how many weeks. Now, if you understand how politics is run in Nigeria, the governors are the power blocks of the party, because each party, you see it as one unit, but by the time they converge, they are different entities brought together, because you have the governors in charge of most of the time the way our politics is run. They control the state houses of assembly. They have the local government chairpersons. That is why you hardly see states that conduct local government elections. You hardly see opposition parties winning. Then under the local government, you have the ward councillors, you have the supervisory councillors. These are what we call structure. So you see the governor controls all this structure down. So when you see a governor saying, the president, even at the presidential level, the presidency doesn't take it easy. It doesn't take it lightly. Then talk less of at the party level, because there are different power blocks that come together. It's not the first time it has happened. This happened just before the 2011 elections. 2015 elections, sorry. 2015 election. That is why the PDP there, which was in power, lost power, because you had several governors that walked out of the party and said, we are no longer in support of this party, we will support the opposition.
Even as a ruling party?
Yes, even as a ruling party. They lost the election. Now they are not even a ruling party. They are an opposition party, and they still have this crisis within them. And not just one or two governors, you have five. Paul Obi said something. He said, when you talk about electoral votes, River State gives you the highest in the south. Oyo State gives you the after Oyo State comes after Lagos. These are two big states. When you talk of voting numbers, River State is giving you between 1.5 to 2 million votes if the governor does his homework very well, and you are losing this kind of vote. So what are you telling? You are telling people that you're unserious. So even if they reconcile now, the election is just 8 weeks. 8 weeks from now, will it so much? There's been so much bitterness. There's been so much acrimony. Will they be able to heal before the election? And also, I think to a large extent, I think the presidential candidate did not manage it well. Yes, he had made his mistakes, but he still had ample time to reconcile. Sometimes you put ego behind, you put pride behind, and just put it up, because you are the one. My father used to say something. They say is that it is the person that wants something that has the longest hand. It is you that who wants something. You should be the one willing to take all the shit and say yes. But I have where I have an objective I want to achieve, which he did not. I think he did not take this. A few weeks ago, I think last week or 2 weeks, we hear that he's still trying to reach out, and I hope he does, if he wants to give his party a chance. Not because I want them to win, but we want an election that will be keenly contested, where you who is going to win, we know that you did not win by landslide. So you have to watch your back and then reflect that fear in governance, because you know that if you are not careful, the next person who has run shoulder to shoulder with you, he can come up the next time and this thing. You see what is happening in the U.S. polity. They are trying not to put Donald Trump on that ballot, because you saw that he lost, but you saw how many votes. You might criticize him, you might not like his style, but you know that he has his own crowd. And once he gets on that ballot, you can't just assume that this party is going to win the elections. So we want an election that is keenly contested, that Nigerians will go home and say, okay, we lost the election, but let's watch. Then it will also make whoever wins reflect this in governance and know that it is not business as usual. Then all Nigerians will benefit. So I think that G5 governors, the renegade G5 governors, is a big issue for the main opposition party. That I don't know what magic they want to perform, but I'm just hoping. They say they can perform magic. Let's see the magic.
Okay, I think we should just squeeze in this call. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Oh, it doesn't even know that we've picked the call. Oh, okay. Well, I just wanted us. We've actually run out of time. Gentlemen, it's been such a wonderful session. I can't believe how time flies. 2 hours just gone by, and we are not even able to make half of the list that we had because we still have issues in the foreign scene. The Ukraine-Russia war, which also kicked off in the early part of the year. We also have the death of Queen Elizabeth II, which was also a global event, and also the UK that changed prime ministers as if it was going out of fashion. And so many other things on the international scene. Unfortunately, we will not be able to look at it. But gentlemen, I'm really, really very grateful to you all for your input in the last 2 hours or thereabout. Paul Obi, journalist and media scholar, thank you for your interventions.
Thank you very much. 2023 elections is very critical for Nigeria. We have to make the right choice. Otherwise, our situation will continue to worsen.
Okay, that will not be our portion, as we say in Nigeria. But Shego Jumu, senior editor, thank you also for being part of this show.
Thank you very much. Guys, there is exactly 60 days, 20 hours, and about 6 minutes before the next general election. So let's get our PVCs ready, okay?
Okay, and not just that. Let's go out on election day and vote.
Oh, yes. Let's go out and vote.
Okay, Amadi Nuyi, who is the Abuja Bureau Chief for News Central. Always dependable. Thank you so much, Amadine.
Thank you, Law. And also to Nigerians, election is an opportunity to express your will. Don't just get your PVCs, make up your mind to come out and exercise your franchise. So that this Nigeria of our dreams, we can say together that it was a collective decision. Let the minority have their say, but let the majority have their way. Thank you.
So that's our package on this edition of Christmas Special Editors Pally on Citizen FM 93.7. Let's make it a date tomorrow for another session. But don't forget, the special programming continues from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock. You will have beautiful music from Damudu and Fred. They'll be giving you a lot of music. And then at 4 o'clock, Udeme George will come with sports. And at 5, Didi and our crew will be here for 2 hours to entertain you. Then from 7 o'clock again, more music as you continue to enjoy the Christmas season. My name is Lawrence Omoiti. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Citizen FM Abuja. Now we be the voice of the people. Citizen FM, Citizen FM.